What's going on, everybody? It's Richie Rax here. Got another edition of Richie's Picks for you. It's Tuesday. That means it's officially week 3 of the NFL season, and I got everything you need to succeed in your weekly fantasy tournaments. We're talking about running backs this segment. We got a lot to cover, so let's get into it. Going to be starting off with my top dollar play. This is the play that I'm most likely to splurge and spend a little bit of extra money on at the running back position. And this week, my top dollar play is going to be Jamal Charles. Okay, $7,400. Kansas City is playing away at Green Bay. Now, Jamal Charles is getting you 22.5 fantasy points per game, and Green Bay is ranked 31st against the run. They're giving up a total of 154 rushing yards a game. It's a lot. Now, Jamal Charles is coming off a 125-yard, one touchdown performance on 21 carries. He also added 4 receptions for only 2 yards, but this is PPR, so that's still 4 points in their 31-24 point loss to Denver. All right, he also lost 2 fumbles, 2 costly fumbles, and had a 1-yard touchdown vultured by Niall Davis, the backup running back at Kansas City. So, a couple plays away from having a over 30-point performance for Jamal Charles. Now, he's getting 21 carries, 20 plus carries almost every single game. One of the last premier backs that's going to see those types of numbers in these days. It's like every team's like a running back by committee. And from a fantasy standpoint, I hate it. I remember when you had that reliable back that was going to get 20 plus carries. But Jamal Charles is still one of the few running backs that does. Alex Smith only throws about 25 passes a game, and Jamal Charles is getting 5 of those targets. So if I'm going to spend a top dollar on a running back this week, it's going to be Jamal Charles going up against Green Bay. A couple honorable mentions. Adrian Peterson's coming off a pretty good game. He had, about 190 yards total. When you're talking about combining rushes and receiving yards, that was against Detroit. He also had 2 fumbles. 23 points last game. He's only averaging 15.7. He had a bad week 1 where he only had maybe 8 rushes for 31 yards. Historically speaking, San Francisco has always came up with pretty good schemes against Adrian Peterson. But AP is AP, they're playing against San Diego this week, who's 21st against the run. So that's an honorable mention right there. Le'Veon Bell could be a sneaky top dollar play at $7,500. It's his first game back coming off of a 2-game suspension. D'Angelo Williams has done a really good job in his place at Pittsburgh. Now, Pittsburgh's playing at St. Louis, who just gave up 182 rushing yards to Washington, and that running back by committee over there, Alfred Morris and Matt Jones. So, Le'Veon Bell could be a sneaky play. Maybe not a lot of people are going to pick him up this week. I'm personally not going to pick him up because I like to see, if they got any rust on them when they're coming back from a suspension. But it wouldn't shock me either if Le'Veon Bell just goes off and runs all over St. Louis. Pittsburgh offense has just been hot this season. They're on fire right now. But I'd like to see something first. That's why my top dollar play is going to be Jamal Charles. Now, let's get into some of these mid-tier and value plays. These mid-tier picks, like I said before, I keep talking about this running back by committee. A lot of these guys are splitting touches nowadays, and I don't like it, So for the most part, I'm going to be looking towards the bottom of the list and trying to find the gems and stay away from dudes that are in committees. And I'm looking for value at the running back position so I could spend extra on wide receivers and tight ends. Now, we got Chris Ivory going for $5,000. Didn't have the greatest week this past week against Indy. The Jets still won that game. New York's playing at home this week against Philly. He's averaging 15.5 fantasy points per game. Now, he was questionable heading into this game. So I think Bilal Powell got those 16 touches he did against Indy because he was, they're kind of trying to take care of their lead back there. They don't want to put too much strain on him when he's got that groin injury and hurt him further or damage him further and prevent him from playing further down the season. So I think that we're going to see something closer to the 20 rushes that he got in game 1. He only got 14 this last game. But Philly's allowing 109 rush yards per game. It's 18th in the league, so they're in the bottom 50% when it comes to that category. So I like Chris Ivory again this week at $5,000. Now here's really where I make my money, you guys. It's in these lower cost running backs. You see here. Yeah, I said it last week, man. Danny Woodhead, 4,400 this week. San Diego's playing away. They're playing on the road at Minnesota. But Danny Woodhead's getting you 19.3 fantasy points per game over these last 2 weeks. He's second in targets on the team, right behind Keenan Allen. Right? He caught 6 of 6 receptions last week for 68 yards. He also added 36 rush yards on 7 carries against Cincinnati. He got you 16 points last week. Man, I like Danny Woodhead at $4,400. It's PPR league, you guys. You know, he's second in the team in receptions. I don't see any reason for that to change. Melvin Gordon looked a lot better running the ball last week, but Danny Woodhead at $4,400 definitely bringing some value to your team. Here's somebody to watch out for. Giovanni Bernard at $4,700. He's averaging 17.4 fantasy points per game. They're going up against Baltimore this week. Cincinnati is. Okay, last week, after Jeremy Hill had a costly fumble, it looked like the coaches weren't really trusting him too much, so they gave Giovanni Bernard lead back duties for the rest of the game, and he went off. He had 20 rushes for 123 yards, 3 receptions for 16 more yards. They beat San Diego. This week, they're going up against Baltimore, who's only allowing pretty stingy 83 rush yards a game. They're ranked 11th in the league in that so far. You know, it's a kind of risky play, but because we don't know what's really going to happen in that situation. We don't know if they're going to say, hey, listen, Jeremy Hill, you know, you had a bad week. We're putting you back into the normal rotation. Or if they're going to give Giovanni Bernard lead back duties. It's something to follow, though, and it might be worth a dice roll in this situation. Now, here's a play that I really like, you guys. This might be my favorite play at running back this week when you're considering the value. Okay, it's Dion Lewis from New England. Jacksonville's playing at New England, so he's at home this week. He's only $4,200 on DraftKings. Okay, he had 7 rushes for 40 yards last game against the Bills, but he added 6 receptions for 98 yards. That's huge. All right, he also had a rushing touchdown. He's averaging 20.4 fantasy points per game. Now, he's had 2 fumbles in the last 2 games. And anybody who's familiar with the Patriots and how that team works, we know that if you fumble a few times in costly situations, you're done. You're getting benched and you ain't coming back, right? That's just how Belichick does it. But he still managed to play 73 out of 86 offensive snaps last game, all right? And he got you 24.8 fantasy points against a very strong Bills defense. Now, he also had 9 targets. I like it when my running backs get targets. You know, that raises the floor of their value. So, I'm liking Dion Lewis. Now, Jacksonville is 5th against the run. You know, Jacksonville, they're sneaky, man. They got a pretty good defense. They seem to be better at home, though. They're on the road this week. Now, they're 5th against the run. They're only allowing 73 yards per game. But where Dion Lewis seems to have the most value is in the passing game. So I'm liking Dion Lewis a lot at $4,200. I think Tom Brady's going to have a big week. I think the Patriots have a good week. And I think Dion Lewis has a good week. All right, you guys. Those are my picks for running back this week, week 3. If this video helped you at all, go ahead, give me a like, comment, subscribe to my page because I'm going to be doing this every week. I got more videos on the way. I got wide receivers and tight ends and defenses coming up next. So stay tuned. Stick with me, all right? This is Richie Racks, another edition of Richie's Picks. Let's bring that money home, baby.